The staircase has not changed. Same steps, same landing, same handrail. But lately, somewhere around the middle, the climb feels different. Maybe your breathing gets louder. Maybe your legs feel heavier. Maybe you reach the top and need a little longer before you feel ready to keep moving. The easy explanation is usually one of two things. You think, maybe it's my heart, or you tell yourself, I'm over 60. This is probably just age. One flight of stairs cannot prove either one. Climbing stairs asks several parts of your body to do different jobs almost at the same time. Your lungs have to bring oxygen in. Your circulation has to move that oxygen where it is needed. And the muscles in your legs have to turn all of that into enough force to lift your body against gravity, step after step. So when a familiar climb starts feeling different, the change may be worth noticing. But the feeling itself does not come with a label telling you where it began. The stairs reveal demand. They do not diagnose the cause. The American Heart Association describes exercise capacity as the result of several systems working together, including the cardiovascular system, the lungs, and the skeletal muscles. In everyday language, your body does not climb a staircase one organ at a time. And if you like calm, evidence-led explanations of the changes people begin to notice later in life, subscribe to The Quiet Heart. The goal here is to follow the clue without pretending that one clue can diagnose you. Now consider why stairs can expose a change that ordinary walking does not. Walking across a room mostly moves your body forward. Climbing adds another job. You have to move yourself upward. Every step raises your body against gravity. Your hips and thighs have to create enough force to lift you, stabilize you, place the next foot, and immediately prepare to do it again. That difference sounds small until you feel it. A person may walk comfortably through a grocery store, cross a parking lot without trouble, and still notice that a staircase demands much more. The distance may be shorter. The workload is not. And that higher demand can reveal something that easier activity leaves hidden. Physiologists sometimes think about this in terms of reserve. At rest, your body does not need to use everything it can do. Your heart is not pumping at its maximum capacity. Your breathing is not at its limit. Your leg muscles are not producing all the force they can produce. There is room to increase the work when the task requires it. A staircase suddenly asks for some of that reserve. Your breathing increases. Your heart and circulation respond. Your muscles recruit more force. If the distance between what the task requires and what your body can comfortably provide becomes smaller, the climb may begin to feel different even though you are still able to complete it. That is one reason the first noticeable change may not appear while sitting in a chair or walking slowly through the kitchen. The easier task does not ask enough. The staircase does. Take one breath as you begin climbing. Air enters your lungs. Oxygen crosses into the blood. From there, that oxygen has to travel through the circulation and reach muscles that suddenly need more energy than they did while you were standing at the bottom. The lungs have a specific job in this chain. They move air and exchange gases. When activity becomes harder, ventilation increases because working muscles need more oxygen and produce more carbon dioxide. You notice part of that response is heavier breathing. But hearing yourself breathe harder does not automatically tell you that the lungs are the source of the limitation. Breathing is also part of the normal response to increased effort. That distinction matters. If you climb faster, carry something heavy, take 2 steps at a time, or encounter a steeper staircase, the demand rises. Your breathing should change with the demand. The useful question is not simply, am I breathing harder? It is this different from what this level of effort normally feels like for me? Meanwhile, the oxygen that entered the blood still has somewhere to go. As your muscles work harder, your cardiovascular system has to support that increased demand. The heart increases the amount of blood moving through the body, while the circulation helps deliver more of that blood to active tissue. So a staircase does something useful for our investigation. It forces the lungs and circulation to respond within seconds, but neither system is working alone. At the other end of the chain are the muscles actually moving you. Your thighs and hips have to produce enough force to raise your body to the next step. Then they have to do it again and again. That repeated upward movement is one reason leg power matters so much on stairs. Researchers have measured this directly. In a 2024 study involving adults from 19 to 85 years old, stair climbing power differed across age groups. That does not mean age explains why one particular person suddenly notices a change. it does tell us something important about the task itself. Your legs are not just being carried along by the heart and lungs. They are part of the system doing the work. Strength matters, power matters, coordination matters, and so does how much of your available capacity the task requires. Consider two people climbing identical stairs. One person may have enough leg power that each step uses only a modest fraction of what those muscles can produce. For another person, the same step may require a much larger share of available capacity. From the outside, the staircase looks identical. Inside the task, the demand is not identical at all. This also helps explain why carrying a laundry basket can change the experience so dramatically. The staircase did not become steeper, but the work increased. The legs have more weight to move. The cardiovascular system has a greater workload to support. Breathing responds to the additional demand. One small change in the situation can make the whole system work harder, and this is where people understandably begin trying to identify the source from what they feel. Heavy breathing? Maybe lungs. Pounding heart? Maybe heart. Burning thighs? Maybe legs. It sounds logical. The body is not always that tidy. The American Thoracic Society describes breathlessness as a complex experience that can arise through different physiological pathways. Different problems can produce sensations that overlap, and the way someone describes the feeling does not neatly point to one cause. That gives us the most important reversal in this investigation. The place where you notice the problem is not necessarily the place where the limitation began. A person can feel short of breath even when the lungs are not the only part of the story. A fast or forceful heartbeat during effort does not automatically identify heart disease, and tired legs do not prove that the muscles themselves are the original cause. What you feel is information. It is not a map with an arrow pointing to one organ. If one part of this chain surprised you most, the lungs, the circulation, or the legs, tell me which one in the comments. You do not need to share symptoms or medical numbers. I am more interested in which part changed the way you think about the climb. Once we stop asking the sensation to name the organ, something more useful becomes possible. We can start looking at the pattern. Suppose the same stairs felt unusually hard once. That single experience contains very little information by itself. Maybe you slept poorly. Maybe you spent several days being much less active than usual. Maybe the house was hot. Maybe you were carrying groceries. Maybe you climbed much faster than normal. Maybe you were recovering from an illness. The context changed. Now compare that with a different situation. The staircase has felt harder repeatedly for several weeks. You are climbing at your usual pace. You are not carrying anything. And now you notice the same change during other activities that used to feel ordinary. That is a different pattern. Neither situation diagnoses a disease, but they are not equally informative. This is why your own baseline matters so much. Not your neighbor's pace, not a fitness chart online, not what another 70-year-old can do. Your baseline is what familiar activity usually feels like for you. Maybe you have climbed the same stairs at home for 10 years without giving them any thought. Then one day you realize you are slowing near the top. A month later, you notice it again. Then you begin choosing the handrail more often or pausing before continuing down the hall. The important clue is not that another person can climb faster. It is that something familiar has changed relative to you. That also protects us from one of the easiest explanations to reach for after 60. It's just age. Age can influence strength, power, cardiovascular fitness, and other parts of physical capacity over time. But age is a background condition, not a diagnosis. Turning 60 does not flip a biological switch, and it does not explain why one particular activity changed at one particular time. A slow change over years is not the same story as a noticeable change over several weeks. That difference in time matters. The opposite mistake is just as easy. A harder staircase does not automatically mean heart disease. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute lists shortness of breath during routine activities such as climbing stairs among symptoms that can occur with heart failure. But that does not mean everyone who becomes breathless on stairs has heart failure. Lung conditions can also cause exertional breathlessness. Reduced conditioning can change how activity feels. Muscle weakness can make a climb more demanding, and several factors can exist at the same time. This is why clinicians do not diagnose the cause of reduced exercise tolerance simply by asking whether stairs feel hard. They build context. They ask what changed, when it began, what kind of activity brings it on, whether it is stable or progressing, what other symptoms occur with it. They may examine the heart and lungs, review medical history and medications, and decide whether further testing is appropriate. In some situations, formal exercise testing can even measure how the cardiovascular, pulmonary, and muscular systems respond while the workload increases. That is very different from turning the stairs in your house into a medical test. The value of the staircase is not that it diagnoses you. Its value is familiarity. You know those steps. You know roughly how you used to feel on them. You know whether you normally walk straight to the next room or stand on the landing for a moment. That makes the staircase a useful place to notice change, even though it cannot explain the cause. And recovery adds another piece of context. Imagine two climbs. On the first, you reach the top breathing harder because you hurried up carrying two bags. You put them down, slow your breathing, and soon the moment feels completely ordinary. On another day, the same flight at your usual pace feels unexpectedly difficult, and the experience does not match what you normally expect from that effort. Those situations do not carry the same information. There is no universal recovery time you should use to diagnose yourself. That would turn a useful observation into a misleading home test. What matters is whether the experience has changed from what is familiar to you. The same idea applies to pace. Walking slowly up 6 steps and rushing up 2 flights are not equivalent workloads. Neither are climbing, empty-handed, and climbing with a suitcase. Context is not noise around the clue. Context is part of the clue. And this is where the conversation becomes less about anatomy and more about independence. A staircase may seem like a small thing, but stairs belong to ordinary life. So does carrying laundry, walking through an airport, bringing groceries inside, visiting a friend whose home has steps, moving through your own house without planning every transition. These are not athletic competitions. They are ordinary abilities that help daily life remain ordinary. Noticing a change does not mean those abilities are disappearing. It means the change deserves the right amount of attention. Sometimes that amount is simply observation. A single unusual climb in an unusual context may not tell you much. Sometimes the pattern is worth discussing. If an activity you normally handled comfortably becomes consistently harder, continues to worsen, or begins affecting other routine activities, that information is worth bringing to a healthcare professional. You do not have to arrive with a diagnosis. In fact, it is more useful to arrive with the pattern. This started about 6 weeks ago. It happens on the stairs, but not during my usual level walk. It used to happen only when I carried groceries, and now I notice it without them. My normal pace has changed. My recovery feels different from what I am used to. Those observations give a clinician something far more useful than, I think it's my heart. And there is another category where observation is not enough. Sudden or severe shortness of breath, especially when it comes with chest pressure or pain, fainting, new confusion, blue or gray lips or skin, or other severe symptoms, needs urgent medical attention. In a suspected medical emergency in the United States, call 911. That part of the story should be clear without becoming frightening. Calm does not mean dismissing serious symptoms. It means responding in proportion to what is actually happening. And proportion is really what this entire staircase investigation has been building toward. At the beginning, there were 2 easy conclusions. My heart must be getting weaker. Or, this is simply what happens after 60. Neither gave us enough information. Then we followed the work of 1 step. Air had to enter. Oxygen had to move into the blood. Circulation had to deliver it. Muscles had to turn that supply into force. The higher demand of the staircase made the cooperation between those systems easier to notice. Then came the important limitation. The sensation itself could not reliably tell us which part of the chain was responsible. That did not leave us with less information. It gave us a better way to use the information we actually have. Change, context, pattern, progression. Those are far more useful than trying to identify an organ from one feeling. If this kind of investigation helps you understand everyday changes without turning every clue into a diagnosis, subscribe to The Quiet Heart. We will keep putting evidence before conclusions and everyday life at the center of the question. Now, return to the staircase where we started. Nothing about the wood, carpet, concrete, or railing had to change for the climb to feel different. At first, that difference seemed to demand an immediate answer. Heart, lungs, legs, age. But the staircase was never capable of giving you that verdict. What it can reveal is that a familiar workload is asking something different from an interconnected system. And because the staircase is familiar, you may notice that change before you ever have words for it. That is the quiet clue, not a diagnosis, not a reason to panic, and not something that has to be dismissed simply because another birthday has passed. It is a reason to ask a better question, not which organ is failing, but what changed in the system that used to make these same steps feel easy.